and see who wants to pop in. Here's Jen.
Hello, sister.
Beautiful.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Ooh, riding the waves, babe. Riding the waves.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you. So our pop-off today will be around Gene Key 54, and we'll share what's coming up around this. And I'll give you any opportunity if you want to, explore anything that's coming up for you, that's on your heart. I'm here to hold space for that. And if you want to just dive in on the Gene Keys, I'm here for that as well. How are you feeling? You want to open up and share about anything that's going on, or would you prefer to hear about the Gene Keys?
I would like to do a little bit of both. So first, if you can share what Gene Key 54 is, because I don't know. And then I know I'm like super excited to hear it because I'm just waiting for of course that's what this is.
Yeah.
Type of deal. Plus it's the eve of the new moon. And so funny, like it's so funny because for a long time I was like, oh, it's the new moon, I have to do da 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 da, right? Or like it's this, or trying to form my life to fit around it. And like now it just magically happens. Like I set up a coaching session with a polyamorous relationship coach that I had used to see in my previous relationship. She's the one that helped me like get out of that relationship.
Wow.
And so, and I had taken that year and a half to myself, right? And then I had, stepped my pinky toe into the dating pool and dated a couple of men for, very brief time. And now there's nobody and it's me again. And I'm like, you know what? Like I had her on at the beginning of my decision to date myself to help me learn how to date myself, that relationship coach. And I was like, and now I recognize like this is it's the same thing, but different, right? It's like I'm starting all over again when it comes to the concept of, stepping into being in a romantic, intimate, committed relationship in whatever form that looks like. And so like, and I've been like just calling in, like writing down all the things that I want in a partner and a partnership and like all of it. And I didn't even recognize that my first session with this relationship coach is on the eve of the new moon, like manifestation central. So I'm just like, oh, okay, here we go. Here I am. So I'm very curious to see what this gene key is and how the energies have been just given to me. I've been walking through them without knowing because that's how it always happens. So yes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to pop off on it because I'm feeling you, and I am excited and nervous at where this conversation goes because I think it's going to be really juicy.
Yeah.
So right now we're in Gene Key 54, and this is called the Serpent Path. This is the shadow of greed. This is the gift of aspiration. And this is the city of ascension. The programming partner to this gene is Gene Key 53, the shadow of immaturity, the gift of expansion, the divine expression of super abundance. So this shadow of greed for love and money. We are in Capricorn season. We are in the energy of the Capricorn new moon. So when we think about the characteristics of Capricorn, there's a low road and there's a high road. So the low road and the shadow of greed is someone that is hoarding resources. It's someone that's still operating out of fight or flight, whether it's in all the ways or it's in some of the ways. And in this shadow of greed, this is there's so much here, but
Yeah.
this is the collapse of patriarchy right now, as within, so without. When we look at our aspirations, we're being asked to really be honest with ourselves. Why? Why do we need that amount of money? Why do we need that title? Why do we need that certificate? Why do we need that relationship? What narrative is still happening within us that says that we need external validation from something or someone outside of us? And where are we maybe hoarding in some capacity, whether it's our heart and we're closed off to relationships and growth, or we are full of this wisdom or these resources that we've accumulated, but we're not sharing them because there's still something in us that says it's not safe to pour it out of me because I still, whether it's an imposter syndrome and I haven't come into the full claiming of what it is, where there's still some kind of scarcity program that we're still releasing that says that it's okay to share it, it's okay to send this away. You know, we're still working on opening up that channel to be full give, full receive, and not closing any one part of it off. And so the shadow of greed can look like where we've been oppressed through the patriarchy, whether it's within our own psyche, of course, as within, so without. And so the Capricorn spirit, it's consistent, it's persistent, it's devoted, it is resourceful, it's working on accumulating the things in order to feel confident enough to go and share it with everyone. It's the mountain goat. Now, for some people, they would think that Capricorns are really greedy, they're stingy, or even stingy with their emotions. They're not going to tell you all the full truth because they're going to be guarded in some capacity. Now, the highest, most evolved Capricorn is the elder. It's so full of wisdom, but you have to be close enough to hear it. You have to be able to get in the energetic resonance of that wisdom to feel it. And so this shadow of greed served us. It was important. We have to observe our ego in order to transcend it. So we have to have our needs met. We have to have enough so that we can be of service. When we're operating fight or flight, we're just thinking about how to have our needs met. We still haven't come into that place where our cup flows over. And this is just a pure energy that we're servicing the world with, because there's still part of us that needs to make sure that we've got enough. So we have to nurture and accept that part of us without trying to be a martyr and trying to live in this paradigm that says that we don't need it or it's greedy to have. You know, It's Jeff Bezos's birthday right now. It's like the perfect example of someone that's accumulated a lot.
Of course, it's his birthday.
Right? And so, in my own experience, I'm having, I've mentioned it a little bit on the forum, but my partner and I are in this creation station right now, wanting to create a retreat. And I am being triggered through the process, which is a beautiful, growing exploration process for both of us. But I'm having to get really concise. Is this coming from greed? Or is this coming from an aspiration? Is this coming from, this is the resources that are required in order to ascend, where all our needs are met and come into a bigger container? Or are we still planting the seed that we don't have enough? And this is a conversation that we're having in this exploration of creating the numbers, creating the everything to this retreat. It's, my partner is all Capricorn. So he's all number crunching. And I'm all, philosophy and, abstract thinking. And so there's a part of my ego that needs to transcend that martyrdom, that thinks that my expertise does not deserve to be compensated to a certain level.
Right.
So he's helping me to expand beyond the greed of, I've spent thousands of dollars. I got a call coming. Oh, shoot. No. Okay. I've spent thousands of dollars building mastery, whether it is with astrology classes, whether it's gene key classes, it's this course, it's that work, it's coaching, it's somatic practices. I've spent,
or your time, like your time is valuable.
Exactly.
Your intention, your energy, your all of it. Like, yes, babe, I freaking feel you so much. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to learn how I'm creating value based on those metrics of the things that I've spent years and really lifetimes learning. What's the metric to how much of a value that has? And so I'm trying to expand the container outside of a greed, because part of me just doesn't like patriarchy and doesn't like to follow into that that path. So that rebel comes out in me where I say, fuck the system. Well, when I say fuck the system, I'm saying fuck money. When I say fuck money, I'm repelling it. And then I go ahead and I squash down my value. And so my partner is in this place right now of helping me to expand my value. And I am on the opposite side with my partner, having to contract where there is greed that needs to be a little bit more curated into, this is a valuable experience because we're offering this, that, and the other. And we're not just solely trying to reach a price point, right? So that's the conversation that we're having right now around this and transcending the ego, coming from, we desire to hold a bigger container. The containers that we've been mostly operating have been, we are a lot of times having a free community sweat lodge on the property and then holding space for a lot of people that come in. That is a depletion of energy sometimes when that's over and over, redundancy of nothing coming back. Right. So now we're trying to expand this container and say, we want to reach a different market. We're ready to bring other people in that are coming from a different price pocket to be able to be immersed in this experience. And so being able to transcend any of that patriarchy on what does it look like to create a really beautiful experience for people that's so intentional, that's so well thought out, that's so service oriented. It's thy will, it's divine will. It's transcending just the selfishness of it, but it also has to have the ego in there. So we have make sure that we make a profit, that we have the ability to accommodate everyone.
So that way you have the resources you need. Like, money is an energetic resource. It is a resource. Money and love are the same thing. There's no difference in that. And so when we resist the money, or we put a cap on what we're willing to receive for money, or what we ask for, right? What we're open to receiving, that's us also putting a cap on the love that we're open to receiving, because again, it's all just energy. And it's interesting because like I have another dynamic in that, because like as I'm in this like creation station portal, manifestation portal type thing too right now, and the sacred key community is coming through loud and clear, and it like this is my year for learning. And that's another piece why I'm so excited to see my coach, because she's also well versed in BDSM and kink, and I have a feeling that she's going to be guiding me to my next teacher, or somewhere my teacher is going to be coming from her. So exploring the tantra, exploring the kink, exploring the BDSM, getting that information and experience, and all of this is what this year is about. Of course, it's in the year of grace that happens. But as I was sitting there and like just savoring this energy and allowing the wisdom to flow through me of like what this, and I put a post on there just like fucking claiming like this is happening. Like a money number came in, because it's going to be in the sacred wild. However, there's going to be an additional charge for it. And because like what came to me for that was, because this isn't going to be like, this is a severely intimate space that we're going to be stepping into. And this is not for people who just want to pick somebody up or who want a good time. Like sacred kink, sacred, deserving of reverence and respect kink are unconventional desires and behaviors in the sexual realm. And so, and that applies to, it's not just about spanking and being tied up and all of this, but an unconventional desire or behavior towards sex is seeing it as sacred in this world. That is unconventional for this world. So then we're also going to be exploring sex magic. We're also going to be exploring these things. And so in that, I want to be like the number that came to me was $111 a month for that community. And at first I was like, whoa. And at the same time, like it was giving me this image of that price point being a filter. Like that price point is the filter, allowing only those who are truly committed, not because of what they're willing to pay, but because that's aligned for them and they're not willing to pay, but they're investing in their sexuality in that way, like is that filter that allows the people that are meant to come into that container and hold that space as sacred and hold that space as what it is. Like it is this sacred ground, and the safety that is required to be created in that container is so deep and vast and immense and expansive, so we can play. Right? Learning how to play in that sexual realm. And so it was really neat to see that just come to me. And I did this momentary like flinch. There wasn't the normal like heaviness or the restriction. It was just a like head bob, like what? And then like allowing the clarity to come in of like, this is the filter. This is one of the filters, not the only one, but this is one of them that allows the beings that are meant to be in this container to co-create this container with you, because this isn't like, this is just so tender for so many, like our sexuality, our sensuality. And it's like, I had this clarity of like, our sensuality is how we experience life through our senses, and our sexuality is how we embody and express life. And so like in that, our sexuality and sensuality has been so deprived and so shamed, and has had the safety just ripped away from it as early as childhood for so many. And so like the beings that are willing to step into this path of sacred kink in the sacred wild are going to be required to be able to hold a sanctuary, a space of safety and freedom within themselves in a way that is not the standard throughout this life in this world that we're living in right now.
I love that. And I love using that number as the portal keeper. And that was kind of what we were saying too, in creating the dollar value for this investment, for this retreat. That's the portal keeper. That's the portal keeper to say who is ready to make this investment in their own transformative journey.
Yes.
And that is something that is a new boundary. That's a new boundary that we're putting up that says, you know, we are welcoming to this ascension, to people ready to ascend and invest in themselves. And that's what I hear in you so much, is ready to take this next step for investing in something so sacred as your sensuality and your sexuality. And I'll tell you, that number feels really good. I spend $150 a month on a gym membership, right? Because that's my somatic practice, and $30 a week feels hell of a worthy on my body. So to think about a container that's sacred and devoted to that sacred expression of our sexuality, $111 is an absolutely worthwhile investment in also that container that has cultivated so much safety by allowing it to be that amount of money. You know, by you know, the number 3 is the number of creation. You know, you're literally investing in your creation every time that you pay that money. That's the energy exchange of the number 3 there.
And you know? Of course that's it. And our sexuality is the energy of creation. Like that, I didn't even think about that. Thank you for naming that, because I didn't, again, it was just a number that popped in my head. But yeah, I mean, that's what our sexuality is, our Shakti, our life force energy. It is the energy of creation, using our orgasm to name what we are calling into this world. That is literally how that space has been created. Like that has literally been my practice. And yeah, and I wanted to circle back real quick. And when we were talking about the like the time and the education that you've given yourself, how much you've, you know, I had somebody, I can't even remember who it was, but they framed it for me in a way where my jaw just dropped. And they were like, you are taking the 20 something years that it took you to get to where you are, condensing all of that knowledge and deliver, and not only condensing it, but creating it to be in a expressed in a deliverable way. So you can pass on your 20 plus years of experience to somebody in 6 months or in how a 6 day retreat or however long. And when they framed it that way, I was like, oh shit. I can hear that. Like my body can understand that. My mind can take that in and like wrap itself around that of like, well, if I take all of the time and all of the attention and all of the intention and all of the tears and all of the crying and all of the falling apart and all of the everything that I have invested in myself, what I'm asking for, or what's being called to be the exchange of energy isn't a lot at all when we take it into that concept. I love how aligned our paths are. Makes me happy. You don't feel so alone.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm really literally like just cycling through the shadow, through the gift.
Yes.
Like it's just a
it is. It's a like 1 minute I'm like, oh my God, this life is so beautiful. And the next minute I'm like, I don't want to live anymore. And then the next minute I'm like, fuck everybody and fuck you and fuck you and fuck you. And how the fuck dare you? And then the next minute I'm so sad they're gone. I'm so sad. Like grief is just, and then the next minute I'm just playing and joyful, like this free child running in a field of flowers. And it's just like, I can't, I don't want to. Like the journey that I had on New Year's Eve was so immense and so profound. And I am a changed person in ways I can't even begin to describe, just in like, I am no longer trying to fit myself into this life. Like this life is transforming to fit me. I am no longer working on, like I am not fitting my practice and my being into these timelines and schedules. The schedules and timelines are transfiguring themselves to fit the being that I am with the practices that I have. Like the thing Paul sent me the other day, like I am not the sacrifice. I am the altar at which life lays itself as a sacrifice to.
Thank you for saying that. And thank you for speaking this into our sacred space, because this is a message that's been coming through so much so around this shift in our perspective, because it was such an indoctrined program that we had where we created this illusion of sacrifice, an illusion of sacrifice. There is no need to carry that charge. That any of this needs to be a sacrifice. That was simply an old perspective on the way that we were revering the ways that we were oppressed, or that, you know, there was I want to be so careful with my language. Well, go ahead.
Well, okay, I was gonna say, take that time. I'm gonna share how that hits me so personally. I just connected these dots. I did a neurolinguistic programming process a few years ago. It was actually 2 years ago exactly. And it's called Timeline Trauma Release. And at this time, I was in my neurolinguistic programming retreat. And this is where the previous relationship I was in hit rock bottom. It was the most abuse I had ever. And I'm grateful that we were 1,000 miles away from each other, because it was the most abusive that our relationship had gotten. And of course it was, because I was at the safest place I could possibly be supported. And I was at a 8-day, 9-day neurolinguistic programming training. And so with people that I had been safe, I've been in class with for a year. And so the last the last process we did was timeline trauma release. And it took me back to the night where a majority of my belief systems were created. And that was when I was about 5 years old, and I was laying at the opposite end of the house, and I couldn't take hearing my mom scream anymore from getting beat. So I ran in and opened the door and said, "Leave my mommy alone." My mom, he started coming to attack me, my stepdad. My mom came in front, and I watched her get the beating. And then he started chasing me with the shotgun, and I hid under my bed, not sure if I was going to be alive or anything. But in that moment, I created the belief that when I stand in my power, people get hurt. I created the belief that when I use my voice, I create danger and people get hurt. I created the belief from seeing my mom that the way you protect the people that you love is by taking the abuse for them. And that carried with me and is what allowed me, when I was getting molested by the owner of the Christian daycare center, in my mind, I was like, at least all of these other children are protected. At least all of these other children were protected. And at the end of that process that I did 2 years ago, it's only been 2 years since the option in my mind, because I relived that same thing in that relationship, because he was abusive, like emotionally, verbally, mentally abusive to his son, to the guys at work. And once I created the structure for that to just funnel all in me, nobody else got abused anymore, just me, right? It's only been 2 years that the option in my head has even existed that nobody has to get hurt. I never had that option in my mind walking through this life. Nobody getting hurt was never an option until that moment. And so, like, that's what we get to be walking reminders of, is no, it isn't okay. No, you are literally the most important person in this world. You do not, nobody deserves to be abused, to have their safety and their freedom taken from them. That is a liable option. And if we share that with people and we hear their responses of, well, yeah, but X, Y, and Z. Well, I know. And when, this job gets better, or when this, like, we have all these stories around why it is okay, justifying the pain and the violence and the sacrifice that's going on. And it's not even that the pain and the suffering and the sacrifice needs to stop. It's the stories that need to be unwoven. And this last 10 days, that's been what this has given me, is that it's not about writing the correct story. It's about letting the story drop in general. And so, like, when you're talking about the sacrifice, like, sacrifice doesn't need to happen. Like, I've only been consciously aware of that. That's only been an option in my reality for 2 years. And it's been a profound 2 fucking years.
Preach, girl. What an incredible story, and what an incredible thing to have to overcome. And so first off, I just want to celebrate you and everything that you've overcome.
Thank you.
I was considering, one of my old stories as well. I've got, I started a gratitude journal in 2017. And so it's one of those 5-year journals, and I've got 2 of them now on my altar. And so when I'm writing in my gratitude, I can look back through the years. And yesterday I was looking back, and, as I said, in my partnership, we're in this creation stage. We're trying to create this beautiful experience. Well, I look in my gratitude journal, and my post is saying, I'm safe. I made it out alive. And, and I flash back to the memory of that moment of leaving my abusive marriage. And, at the time I had a concussion. I had the police escorting me with a moving truck. I had my partner had left for the gym, and I got everything. I got the movers over. I get everything packed up with police escort. And he comes home right as we're about to leave, and the police stays with him where we get out. And it's as seamless as it can be, although there is an attempt of an attack, you know, but it's as seamless as it could be. And I realized as I'm trying to cultivate this trip with my partner, that I've still got that memory that's coming up right now. It's still so alive in me. And what I am able to voice to my partner is that I need freedom. I need safety and freedom in my body. I need it now, and I need it in every conversation about this experience, about this retreat. Because if I can't cultivate every single part of this trip from a place of space and freedom, then I'm not ready to be on it. Oof. And I had to sit in the memory of when I was married to a man from Mexico. And one of like our honeymoon trip in Mexico, he robbed me and locked me up, and I thought I was going to get kidnapped, and it was a very traumatic experience. And now I've got this beautiful partnership, but I realized I've got another man that wants to take me to a private island in another country, and I'm going to be without my support system. And this is an old memory of a time that I was trapped in a situation. And so I'm looking at this from the observer because of how much work I've done to maintain safety and freedom in my body since this experience, that we're having this conversation, that we get to create this retreat from this place. But it's the grace in all of this leading the way to say it wasn't easy to get to this place. There was so much that I had to unpack. And even in the exploration of where we want to go to, Eleuthera is literally the name that means freedom. And this is literally the Lucayans, or the native tribes here, who came here because they were oppressed and they were looking for religious freedom because they had been persecuted. So they came to a safe place to practice their magic and their rituals, to connect with the earth in caves. And I'm like, this is my people. This is what we do. And I'm experiencing lifetimes of past life memories coming to the surface. So I might be in a moment in conversation with my partner, but it's really my ancient future selves coming through me in this moment to say we are ready to be liberated from all of that oppression that's somatically been stored in ourselves. And so it's taken lifetimes to come to this place where it's like literally this gene literally is about the service-oriented, heart-led business. It is about the businesses that say, fuck that patriarchy, oppressive bullshit of division and hierarchy, that I need to be valuable only if I meet your stupid metric that keeps changing, that doesn't even make any sense. And so this heart-centered embodiment practice of living according to our truths, our own truths, responding to how our body is reacting to things instead of just autopilot reacting. But this ascension that we're going through right now, it's our ancient future selves somatically experiencing this moment with us, through us right now. And it's like, how freaking beautiful that now it's not coming from greed, because we purified all of that. Now it's coming from lifetimes of healing that is now a service to others through the embodiment of that.
Yes. So thank you for calling in the ancients, because that has been a theme. The most recent man that I was dating, when I had done a small medicine journey, like right at the beginning of us connecting, and like it went back lifetimes, like it showed me all of the lifetimes that we had lived. And coming into this space where he's no longer like, we are no longer dating. And even the way in which that happened, like, him saying like, you deserve someone who can show up fully, and I can't do that right now, so I have some work to do. Like, boom, right? And then me going forward and all of this like sexual energy that was activated because it was a primal connection, babe, like holy fuck. And like still not having had sex. It's been a year and a half that I haven't had sex. So I have like this Shakti, this sexual energy running through me, coming into the creation space with the sacred wild, with the sacred king community, with manifesting this connection, this relationship, this partnership, with all of this, and then diving into the book that Reverend Brianna Lynn had recommended. The I can't even remember the name of it. Do you remember the name of it?
No, there's been a couple she's brought up recently.
I'll have to get, it's like the Sacred Mother or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll post it in the notes when I share this, but I read the 5-page preface and was in tears, like couldn't breathe tears because I'm like, holy fuck. And then I read the introduction and then tears again, recognizing like the the oppression, the history of the oppression of women, the history of I am walking through this, creating this sacred kink community, owning a business, walking in this space, making the money that I make, running another company, being a mother, and am the walking embodiment of all of the work that every generation before me has done. And I get to continue that legacy. I am not doing this for me. I am doing this for every woman, and every single human on this planet has been a woman or has the feminine energy in them. So it's not just me, it's not just women, it's for every human to walk through this evolution and embodiment of learning what it is to step into the sacred conscious business. Like, how do we do this business from a heart-centered, womb-centered space? How do we allow this to guide? This has transformed my default job, my default world job, into an act of service. So I can allow the sacred wild to grow naturally without requiring it to pay my bills. Like that was a very conscious decision that is very crunchy very often because it also brings up the not enough. However, it's another day. But it allows me to allow the sacred wild to grow organically and come to a space of I feel guided that it is now time to open it up to a charge for any new members that come in. Not because I need the money. I'm good financially, but because that's where it feels like the energetic balance, the synergy will be created, right? And there will be this like the reciprocity. It's time to increase that reciprocity. And like just reading those books, like all of this has felt like it's been coming from this just ancient primal space. Like whatever happened over the last couple of months, like the connection between me and this man that I was dating, like activated this primal awakening in me. And it's from there that I'm moving forward. It was from there that I went through my medicine journey. And it's from there that I take each step into this new year, into this new world, into this new version of me. And just like it now has, it is so rich and full that there's no way it can be any other way ever again.
Wow. You know, what's so beautiful about this gene in particular is we are divine creatrix. We are meant to be creating. And we fall into the shadow of greed when we stop creating. When we close up that channel, we go into depression. We go into feelings of hopelessness and purposelessness. When we're not sharing our gifts, it eats us from the inside out because it's not how we're meant to live. Right. And so, you know, even when we get into that, you know, for me, sometimes it can be an imposter syndrome of like, who do I think that I am to share this or do this or whatever story I have to overcome? And I'm like, who am I not to? It is so selfish of me to have read, you know, I looked at my Audible, it says I read like 31 days of books. It was like, whoa.
Yeah, I know that it's this. I know I have so many. It was so funny. I was actually looking at the books that I was reading. Like a sister of mine was like, here are the books that I'm reading. And she says like, here's mine. I'm reading Sacred Kink. I'm reading like this communication book about how to communicate in the BDSM world. I'm like, I love freaking like library. This is my life.
Yeah.
But where do you need to show me? I'm curious to see how much I've read slash listened to. But yeah, like the
So
absorbing
we
of
just
the
become
information.
selfish. Yeah, we're greedy when we don't share it.
Yeah.
We're greedy when we hold on to it. Because like I know for 100% for sure for me, is that will make me go into a depression
Yes.
to just be hoarding information and not doing it with anything. And so the
Yes.
repressive nature of this greed is someone that's unambitious. And it's really
Right.
when we become a cog in the wheel, we think we're supposed to go to school, we're supposed to study this, we're supposed to go to work, we're supposed to have this 40-day work schedule. And
Yeah.
we lose our own ambition when we just become a cog on the wheel of like doing the shoulds, right?
Yes. Thank you for naming that. That's so interesting because like through this journey, because like I've also been working with fasting on a regular basis, things like that. And it's interesting because we have, as with everything, we have this flipped perspective of we can only do X, Y, and Z. Like I look back to when I was working at PetSmart, and working at PetSmart and being a mom depleted me. And I thought that's what depleted me. It wasn't. It's because I wasn't creating. It's because I wasn't expressing. It's because I was holding in all this energy and it was weighing me down, making me exhausted. There was no reciprocity, there was no flow. And so
Yeah.
it was just like holding it in and just weighing me down. And now like I create a ton between the sacred wild and just like in general, my writing, I moved up to 2 practices a day, like the morning and the evening ritual, the rising and the setting. And I'm just so like, it's like, okay, bring it on. What else do we have? What else is there? Like, I'm ready to take on more. Like, let's do this. Let's step into deeper creation.
Yeah.
And that's it, is because when there's that flow and we surround ourselves also with, like, when we embody our truth, our power, our all of it, then we attract what reflects that to us, and the reflections amplify what's already there, and it's just this beautiful cycle of amplification.
Totally.
Conversations are a beautiful example of that.
I love it. I love it. I get so excited for these. Totally. And yeah, I mean, the gene keys is an act of embodying. It's not about talk. It's not about intellect. It's about walk of the day, walk. And Capricorn season is about commitment. It's about devotion. Right now, Capricorn new moon is like, you don't have to create the utopia overnight, but what are you devoted to? And it's like, it's a rising ritual. It's a, setting ritual. It's a pulling an oracle card every day. It's lighting a candle every day. It's somatic practice every day. That is the thing that keeps bringing us closer and closer and closer. That is the ascension journey. It's one step at a time of commitment. It's perseverance. It's all the archetypal characteristics of Capricorn. And Capricorn shows us that, if we put in one step a day, there's no limit to what we can create. I mean, this is the programming partner of superabundance. Superabundance goes beyond abundance because it goes beyond what our rational intellectual mind can conceive.
Yes.
Right now we have so many solar flares coming in, and light is just like overtaking where there has been shadow now. We don't even know where the next abundant, prosperous thing is going to come from because there's so many directions of it coming in. Yeah. And what's been so beautiful, I know for me, has been really getting super discerning in my awakening journey, to be able to smell from a mile away who's operating from greed and who's really got the chip figured out and is awakening with us, who's being that illuminator, who's creating the next spark, who's creating excitement, who's creating communities over here that I want to be a part of. And I'm like, I'm so excited to be in the sacred wild because I believe in the heart-centered led businesses. I believe in you. I feel you. I feel you beyond that that ego. It's already transcended beyond that greed. And I know that, I feel that with you. And that it's so important for us to have that discernment as we go along, because there's so many coaches, you know, and it's not to cast judgment, because everybody's going to find what they need at the right time that they need it. But there are going to be a lot of coaches that are still in the practice of transcending their own ego. And you're going to feel that with their coaching practices and rituals, because maybe there's a pyramid scheme in there, or maybe there's something that, if you really look at it, that's an old patriarchal blueprint that they're recycling, you know? And once you have more awareness of it, you just get to discern that feels a little bit too old paradigm for me to step into right now. So beautifully, luckily enough, there's enough pockets of awakened creators cultivating these beautiful spaces that we have choices now. We don't just choose the oppressor. We don't just choose the patriarchy. We don't just choose the thing that we have been in for lifetimes. We get to keep creating the new structure of this service economy that's so heart-led, that it's so super abundant in ways that we don't even know yet. The collaborations that are going to come, the networking, the people that we become inspired by, the countries that we go and serve, the refugee projects that we get to give back to. We don't even know how super abundant we are, because right now what has been demonstrated for so long is a corrupt system, is a way that's been entitled. It's a way that's been, you know, only the privileged get this, only the immature get this, and like only the greedy get this. And we had to transcend all of that yuckiness. And it's so beautiful now to say, like, we did it. We're still in that crunch of seeing that old paradigm, but that's over there.
But we see it now.
Yeah, we see it.
We aren't blind to it.
Fully on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
we get to choose different.
Yes. Like it comes up to come out. We see it so we can clear it. Like that's what happens. It's when we can't see it that we're just in the middle of it. And it's that piece, right? Where we feel like we're taking a step back, but really it's the step forward. It's always been there. It's our awareness of it, our vision of it that's new. It isn't new. It's always fucking been there.
That's why I like to call them my ancient future selves, you know?
Yes.
It's like I keep getting all the downloads from my ancient future selves, because it's all here. It's all awakening to the light of its true nature, through the awareness and being like, I used to fall for that trap. Or my biggest goal was money. I was putting my value on how much money I had.
I'm fucking walking through that right now.
Yeah, like, I can see. And it's like, you know, and I love the way that Zach Bush is around it when he's like, oh, that's so sweet of me. That's so cute. Like, he has love and compassion for that part. That's so sweet.
I fucking love Zach Bush. He changed my life. That conversation that he had in Fluorescence, like that literally changed my life.
Same. And I go back to that, and it keeps changing my life.
I know, right? I keep hearing different things in it, and it's wild. So, and like, it's fascinating because it's so funny because we hear these things all the time, right? Choose businesses that are heart-centered, that are conscious, that, you know, walk the same. Like, I drink your cacao every morning. That is part of my morning practice. I get so fucking excited. And like where I've gone through like just how I'm eating and things like that in general, like whether I put a small microdose in it or whether I don't, I feel it.
Yeah.
And like, I trust it because I trust where it's sourced from. I trust where it comes from. I trust the intention behind it. And choosing what I put in my body, right? Choosing what products I buy, choosing where I shop from, choosing these things. Where am I going to energetically exchange my money for products? Where is my energy going? What am I feeding? What are my choices feeding? Like, that has changed my life so fucking much. And there are so many stories that I told around it. And I went to Sprouts a few weeks ago, and I remember walking the groceries out to my car, putting the groceries in my car, and remembering the time when I was just wishing that I could shop here every day and believing that I couldn't because I couldn't afford it, or I couldn't do it, or whatever the case may be. But when I could, I did. And then eventually those little pieces started to expand more and more. And now I get to shop at Sprouts, or I get to go to the local farmers market, or I get to go to the market that's out in Prescott to get honey or fresh meat if I want fresh meat. Or, like I get spring water. Paul and I drive up to Flagstaff or to Sedona to Oak Creek Canyon because there's a free, like, the spring water is just falling out, and we fill our water bottles up there every couple of weeks, and that's the water that we drink. Like, we take the time, attention and energy to like choose that. And through this year of grace, like of course, after grace had chosen me as a word, and a few days in, and it's like the third, and I'm like fucking dark night of the soul, what the hell's happening? I decide to like look up the definition of grace, and I combined all three definitions that I could find to refine one's movement through this life to a pure presence that honors oneself and others through simple elegance and courageous goodwill. And then going even further, what does refinement mean? It means the process of removing impurities or unwanted elements from a substance, the improvement or clarification of something by the making of small changes, cultured elegance in behavior. Like, this is what it is. Like, my foundation is built. Now it's time to get refined. Now it's time to drop everything away to where all that's left is pure presence. And that's what honors self and others. It's learning what simple elegance is and embodying courageous goodwill. Like, this is what this year gets to be. And I'm so grateful that I went through liberation and harmony first to prepare me for this, because if I didn't have those to stand on, this would be a motherfucker. And it is. And I get to see the beauty in that. But like, yes, just to refine, like, can we allow ourselves to believe that we are already good? That we are already good. And that we have already survived. The fight, the war gets to stay in the past. You don't have to so much. We don't have to bring it with us. It gets to stay back there. And that we have already created safety, that we are already free, and that we are good. Like, how many of the wars and how many of the everything that's going on is simply because we believe we're doing something bad, that we are bad. And what if to end all wars is simply to believe we are good?
In looking at Eleuthera and studying the indigenous cultures that was there and experiencing so many past life memories that were coming up, I was remembering this, how it was coming through was this Romeo and Juliet heartbreak. And as I was somatically experiencing the concept of losing my beloved in past lives, I realized in that moment how much there's still that fear within me of losing this love. Yeah. And in that losing of that love, when that fear is present, I will self-sabotage myself so subtly that it might not be even noticed by others. But I was able to unpack that in partnership this week to say, there's a part of me that's afraid of the commitment with him because I've already lost him before. Oh, and there's a part of me that's still remembering and holding on to what it was like to lose him. And now to have him again, there's this belief system that I have where one became two for the joy of returning back to one. Well, when I remember the returning of the one, I'm remembering it as a Romeo and a Juliet sacrifice of the other. And in remembering that, I'm creating a dissonance that ever so subtle in my relationship that's preventing me from being truly in the one because of that perception around the sacrifice of losing the other again. And in that small little seed, I'm still creating an own patriarchy in my own body where I'm not, until I become aware of it, there will be a resistance to being here now. And the gift of this moment and this gift of grace is that remembrance. I am here now. We are here now. We are here now together to love so radically. And I can feel into those fears around past life experiences, but they're not real and they're not here now. What's right here in front of my face is my beloved again. And I get to be in the experience of that container of love. And I don't have to carry a story around sacrifice. That one will go away because that's simply the old patriarchy running a system in me that's keeping me from the one.
I needed to hear all of that very, very much, because that was with the man I was previously dating, going through that medicine journey. I lived through all of the times we had lost each other, whether it was me losing him losing me, us losing each other, whatever the case may be, whether it's death or loss or pain or whatever, like over and over and over again. And that's what this separation, this going apart feels like right now, is like I'm living not just this one. I know we only dated for less than a month and a half and all the things. No, I'm literally grieving lifetimes of loss of this man. That is this processing happening. Spirit gave me in that same medicine journey that just as our body, our physical body, holds the imprint of the traumas that have been experienced in generations past and they're passed down, it also, our soul imprints that into our genes also. So every life that our soul has lived gets imprinted when it comes into our body, into our being, as our beings being developed. Like the imprint of our soul's experiences is genetically modifying our DNA. And so like right now I'm just living this lifetimes of grief, of loss, and it's present again. And for you to name that this is not a sacrifice is something that I really needed to hear, because it feels that way sometimes. And it's hard to separate that.
Right.
And it's hard to remember, like, I am here. I am not all of those past versions of myself that has lost him. He is not all of the past versions of himself that has lost me. We are here now walking this earth, and we got the ultimate privilege of experiencing each other the way that we did for the time that we did. Like, what a gift. What a gift to have that, like, just alignment and beauty and experience in this 3D world that we're living in such an ancient and primal way, to bring me back. If that was his sole purpose, if the only purpose for him walking into my life again was to activate and the remembrance of the ancient primal being that I am, and power I have access to, and wisdom that is freely here for me to receive and offer to this world, then our soul contracts are complete. Like, we have served the purpose for each other so beautifully.
So beautiful.
And that is anything but a sacrifice. Like, that is creation.
That really feels, on the collective level, this is the trauma that we're transmuting right now, is that core trauma of separation in all the ways that we've anthropomorphized it in our own lives. And for many of us, it's come through the lens of sacrifice. And in my case, several Romeo and Juliet stories of sacrifice. But it is the perception of the core separation that we experienced. And we are removing that from our DNA as we remember there was never any separation. It was just our perception. And so when we release that perception of the separation, we get to release the trauma that we felt in that separation. And we get to transcend it. And we get to transcend it to be the mystical alchemist that we are, to remember that we are living all these concurrent lives right now. And so while that relationship may have been a month and a half in the physical in this incarnation, it's still an energy. And it, who knows what it gets evolved into creating into. You know, my body didn't bring in a physical incarnation, but it brought an astral son to my life now. And I have an astral son that's leading me and giving me these breadcrumbs around the world, because I no longer buy into the belief that I sacrificed or that I lost or that something was taken from me, because it's simply matter that's gone into a different dimension, not created nor destroyed. There is no sacrifice. There is no separation. I get to observe compassionately the ways that I was creating those stories to learn from. And how many beautiful love stories have I got to experience when the depth of grief was so strong? And now I get to be here now with my partner, creating this beautiful retreat for us to experience life together, to go back and sing and dance and pray and bless the lands where our ancestors were oppressed and genocided. This is the most incredible thing in the entire world now, is to not be greedy with my heart, to not be greedy with my time, to not be greedy with my energy, to be all the way here now, 100% human in this body, radiating love in any direction that it wants to go into, because my soul's been so purified from that false belief of separation and sacrifice. And now it's just pure divine presence through the gift of grace.
I bow to you. I bow to you. Oh, fucking preach it, sister. It's fucking, and it's energy transformed. It's energy shifting in shape. It's a shapeshifter. It is not gone. There is no loss. There is no fucking sacrifice. There is no any of it. It is energy that is transmuted. It is energy that is changed and expressed. Like, there is no loss. There is no any of that. And that is the story that gets to drop. That is the story that gets to drop. All of this grief, this love that has nowhere to go because the place that it was going is no longer available for me to send. Well, fuck that. I can still send all the fucking love to him, which I do. He's present in every one of my fucking practices, and I pray on it all the fucking time. And this energy, this creation, this creation that is waiting to come out of me, that was expecting to come out into the form of a relationship, is coming out in different ways, in beautiful fucking ways. And it's coming out in the ways of also like realizing that I need support. Like, one of my boundaries or one of my requirements for a relationship was that once we start, once we commit to a relationship together, we see a relationship coach at least once a month. Well, I love who I am, and that I am getting this polyamorous relationship coach when I have 0 relationships again, like for the second time, because now it's time. And again, like, Jen, you weren't following the sacred wild ways of being. You weren't following the ways of being of the initiatory path. The very first way of being is the prepared way of being. And so now it's time to prepare. Now it's time to prepare. Prepare for the partnership, the relationship, the partner that's already here for me. It's time to prepare for this sacred container that I'm being called to open for this sacred kink community. It is time to prepare for the initiatory path of the sacred wild when that opens up spring equinox of 2024 this year. It is time to prepare for this month. I'm preparing to reintroduce myself onto social media in just the Jen way, from a space of ceremony, from a space of radical aliveness, from the space that is sourced in the same energy that we're embodying right now. This is what we get to spread into the fucking world. And thank you. You are an inspiration to me, Callie Grace, for that invitation to oh, it doesn't have to all look the same. It doesn't. And I'm just like so fucking on fire about like I was like, yeah, we're going to be on TikTok and we're going to be on Instagram. And Instagram is going to be about sharing the different pieces and the experiences of the sacred wild. And fucking TikTok is to share about fucking whatever the fuck's coming through this oracle right here. And so like, I'm so excited to see what that looks like and explore that. Thank you so much for your presence and your willingness to share yourself and just being here. Like your commitment, your dedication to yourself shines through in how you show up here. And I am so fucking grateful, so honored, and so lucky to be able to call you a sister that I get to walk with on this journey of fucking life.
I love you.
I love you.
Thank you for creating this space. And, you know, truly, I am unbelievably excited to be able to have these weekly conversations embodying the divine essences of these every single week, because this was more transformative to me in embodying the frequency every day, as they were going through the calendar year, rather than just going into my own profile. Like I did my own profile, gene keys, everything, but there was something so transformative just but being in the energy and talking through the energy. And 1 year of this is going to be radically transformative when we come back to these, and every time we have different conversations and we see the way the energy moves through us. And so I'm so grateful. I was going to end just to share the oracle of this gene key. So this is coming from Dr. Rosie Aronson, 64 Faces of Awakening. And we've already shared our wisdom story. So I'm just going to share the last bit, which is the oracle. And it says, I bring the gift of aspiration. Look long and hard at the ways that you're still driven by fear, competition, and the desire to serve yourself. I come when it's time to start thinking about how to serve others and how to join forces in order to create a healthier, more sustainable world. Call out your inner Robin Hood and start giving back. Think holistically and find creative ways to more justly redistribute the resources on our planet. If you don't have money, donate time, energy, wisdom, and love. Remember, if you've been holding on to what you've got, this is a good time to let it go. If you've been resisting others' generosity, it's a good time to start receiving. Keep it flowing and all will thrive.
Fucking letting go.
Letting go.
Fucking letting go. Letting go.
We are open channels. Don't clog the channel. Give, receive, fill the cup up. Let it just flow out of you as the service that it is. You are someone that has cultivated so much space and freedom in your body that we get to expand into abundance together.
Yes. And let it all go. Let it all drop away what's meant to drop away. Let it all come into me what's meant to come into me. I am here. Do with me what you will. I am yours.
Amen. Amen. On this new moon, I've got my moon water charging. I've got my altar. We're planting the seeds. This is the perfect time to use that consistent, devoted, persistent energy just to say, every month, I'm going to show up for 5 minutes and I'm going to journal or whatever it is.
Thank you also for naming that you had your gratitude journals, like the 5-year, like that feels so delicious to me. Like to have a gratitude journal and a manifestation journal.
Yes.
And just to consistently like make that a part of my daily practice and just see like, because I have these journals that are all like, you know, pieces of them, you know, all
Yeah.
throughout everywhere. And I like love reading back on them, like, oh my gosh, I remember writing that and now I'm living it. Or like, oh my gosh, I remember that part of me when I was so like, and then seeing the now and like, so yeah, having an integrated journal that's not so fractured and all in different pieces everywhere. That feels so good to me. I think I'm gonna integrate that into my practice starting today.
Yeah, one of them is called, the one I first started with was the Happiness Project. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, and it's just one line a day, but for 5 years. And so I'm on my second one. So it's so
Wow.
nice going through and just one line a day, but it totally transports you
Yeah.
right back there every year when you're like,
Mm.
wow, holy shit,
Right.
I've overcome a lot. Or I can't believe I was dreaming about this and now it's here.
Now it's
And
real.
100%, I use it for manifesting as well. I have another one for manifesting, just one line a day. I
Yeah.
even filled one out of for my partner. I bought him one, and the first year we were dating, I bought him one. He never touched it. So the next year, I filled out the first year every single day of why I was grateful for him. And I'm like, maybe now you'll have incentive to go back and at least see every day
Yeah.
one thing I love about you. In the next 4 years, maybe it jumps off with something.
Right. Oh, I love that so much. Mm.
All right, my
Sister,
love.
thank you so much.
You
This is
happy
always
Friday.
such a blessing. Mm.
Always such a blessing. I'll see you next week, and I'm here. I love
Love
you.
you. Mwah.
Namaste.
Namaste, love.
Happy New Moon.